At least 5 people have been killed as heavy thunderstorms ripped through the Balkans region after days of soaring heat.
The United Nations Human Rights Chief says refugees, women and the LGBTQI community are the most affected by populist rhetoric.
New Zealand is rocked by a deadly shooting in Auckland just hours before the city hosts the opening game of the FIFA Women's World Cup.
Serbia's capital Belgrade was among several cities in the Balkans to be hit by powerful storms following days of soaring temperatures. Wind gusts brought down power lines, leaving areas without electricity, and the airport was temporarily closed. In Croatia, the storm suddenly darkened the sky and brought blinding rain, flash floods and winds across Zagreb from 4 p.m. halting the city's transportation, causing power outages and leaving streets blocked. Zagreb's emergency services have asked citizens to be patient as hundreds of calls for help came at once. 2 men died when a tree fell on them. In Slovenia, authorities say tens of thousands of people were left without power and scores of campers have been evacuated from their campsites as strong winds overturned their tents. Across the region, storms have left chaos behind and injured dozens, from rooftops being ripped off to falling trees.
A gunman killed 2 people and injured 6 others in a shooting on a construction site in New Zealand's largest city, Auckland. The authorities have confirmed the gunman also died at the scene. A police officer was among the injured but was able to walk to an ambulance with help from colleagues. No motive has been given, but the attack is not thought to have been terror-related.
The offender was armed with a pump-action shotgun. He moved through the building site, discharging the firearm as he went. Upon reaching the upper levels of the building, the man contained himself in an elevator. Shots were fired and he was located a short time later.
The attack comes as Auckland prepares to host the opening game of the Women's World Cup later on Thursday. The construction site was close to the hotel where the Norwegian women's national team has been staying. New Zealand's Prime Minister says there is no national security threat and the tournament will proceed as planned. It was supposed to be the crowning achievement of his term. The rotating presidency of the European Council, held by a socialist Spanish Prime Minister. Both Spain and the EU had high expectations, but conservative gains at local elections in May led Pedro Sánchez to call for early elections.
Desde el punto de vista de las instituciones europeas, la convocatoria electoral del 23 de julio sentó como un jarro de agua fría.
Brussels will be keeping a close eye on the elections this Sunday, contested by Pedro Sánchez's Socialist Party and Alberto Núñez Feijóo's Popular Party. So what could a potential coalition with the far-right Vox Party mean for Spain's political posture?
Eso podría, de alguna forma, generar cierta alarma en algunos de los equilibrios que hay ahora mismo en Bruselas. Dicho esto, es cierto que los dos grandes partidos, el Partido Popular y el Partido Socialista, han dejado fuera de la campaña electoral todo aquello que tiene que ver con Bruselas y con la Unión Europea. Es decir, podemos decir que a grandes rasgos están de acuerdo, hay sintonía.
On the table are important European agreements such as migration policy and the ecological transition.
Discurso con evocaciones negacionistas que está muy bien para intentar hacer un ejercicio de populismo electoral, pero que desde el punto de vista de la policy y no de la politics son inaplicables. En otras materias, como puede ser el debate sobre la migración, yo creo que el Partido Popular haría mal si intenta hacer concesiones en materias que son muy sensibles.
Sin mayorías absolutas a la vista, las últimas encuestas apuntan a que la presidencia del Gobierno de España se decidirá por un puñado de escaños el próximo domingo 23 de julio. Será una noche de infarto también en Bruselas. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
India's Prime Minister has broken his public silence over deadly ethnic clashes in Manipur after a video went viral showing 2 women being paraded and molested by a mob. The images triggered massive outrage and went viral late on Wednesday. Narendra Modi said those involved will pay the price.
मेरा हृदय पीड़ा से भरा हुआ है, क्रोध से भरा हुआ है.
Manipur in northeastern India has been gripped by ethnic violence between groups since May. 130 people have died so far. The police say they have opened a case of gang rape and have arrested a man. In a rare sign of public opposition to Taliban orders, dozens of Afghan women have held a protest against a nationwide beauty salon ban. Beauticians and makeup artists along with their clients gathered in the capital Kabul. The women defied security forces who used fire hoses and tasers to break up the protest. The Taliban move has drawn international concern about the impact on female entrepreneurs. They say the salons are forbidden by Islam.
The United Nations Human Rights Chief says he's worried about an increasing rise in populism and anti-freedom or rights movements in the world, including in Europe. In an interview with Euronews in Brussels, Volker Turk said that the main victims of this concerning trend are refugees, women and the LGBTQI community.
We need to fight against bigotry and populism, because all of it is ultimately about who we are, embracing human diversity and the richness of who we are, accepting who we are, no matter who we love and how we want to engage in our lives. I think we need to respect this. This was the biggest promise from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And we need to educate all those who want to push us back into an era that is long gone by.
I would like to ask you if you think that the United Kingdom migration bill that has just been passed, somehow to avoid that asylum seekers present their demands in the UK territory, is a blatant disregard of humanitarian law.
Well, it's clear that the UK illegal migration bill is in violation of both international refugee law as well as international human rights law. Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights talks about the right to seek and to enjoy asylum from persecution. So you have a right to seek and enjoy asylum from persecution. But if that law bars that right, it is a tragedy.
What do you think of the recent agreement between the European Union and a country such as Tunisia, which, of course, also was mentioned by United Nations agencies as a country where human rights violations occur?
We need to understand why people are moving. They are moving because of human rights violations in their own countries. Sometimes they end up in horrible situations, in Libya, for example, or in Tunisia, where they are pushed back or where it's very difficult for them to survive. I mean, Libya has these horrific detention centers for migrants and asylum seekers. So the big thing and the big ask is, can we not find alternatives to these horribly dangerous routes that migrants and asylum seekers often have to take?
Mr. High Commissioner, thank you very much for being with Euronews.
Thank you very much.
The Bibby Stockholm barge berthed here on the small island of Portland, just off the Jurassic coast of southern England. It's soon to become home to 500 single adult male asylum seekers, under UK government plans to ease the pressure on the asylum system. Police today sent to listen to local residents' perspectives.
Do you think it makes sense to put migrants on barges?
Potentially, yes. If they've got to be detained somewhere, then yeah, that's got to be done.
It's completely inhumane. I don't understand why we're doing that. I think it's appalling, actually. And yeah, I feel quite ashamed of our country treating people like that.
I obviously feel sorry for them because they've come from a country that obviously has problems, but we have problems in our own country as well at the moment.
We would prefer to see more dignity, more humanity, more respect by housing people and on land.
This barge is an alternative to the current system, a cost-saving measure, as the UK government looks to cut the amount it spends on putting up asylum seekers in hotels. However, the plan is proving harder to implement in other places. Reports that owners of ports at Liverpool and Edinburgh refused to allow 2 boats set to house 1,000 asylum seekers to dock. The boats were returned to their owners. Portland's big barge will be up and running within a few weeks.
There are other strongly held local concerns, and they are that this harbour, which is tightly monitored in terms of who has permission to come in and out, will stand to act as a makeshift prison for those on board the barge inside this port.
It's completely barred, it's got a security door, you know, we can't get around the island because we can't get around that part of the port. I don't see how they're essentially free. It just seems a very odd state of affairs, really. I mean, it seems like a prison to me.
A barge 3 stories high and the size of a football pitch, soon to be home to 500 men from around the world. Luke Hanrahan, Euronews, Dorset.
New Zealand defied the odds to stun Norway 1-0 as the 2023 Women's World Cup kicked off on Thursday. The co-hosts opened the scoring just after the interval thanks to a clinical finish by Hannah Wilkinson. New Zealand then stayed solid in defence en route to their first win on the global stage. In the other game, Steph Catley's second-half penalty was enough for Australia to get their campaign off to a winning start against the Republic of Ireland in Sydney. Catley, who had taken the captain's armband following Sam Kerr's calf injury on the eve of the game, scored the winning shot in the 52nd minute.